What if I told you that everything you believe in has already ceased to exist? Imagine waking up one morning to find that all your morals, values, and sense of purpose were nothing but illusions. The world you thought had meaning is, in reality, an empty abyss. No divine justice, no higher purpose, no eternal truth, just nothingness. This isn't a horror story, it's the chilling reality Friedrich Nietzsche warned us about in 1882. A German philosopher made a statement so controversial that even today, over a century later, its echoes continue to haunt us. God is dead. These three words sent shockwaves through the intellectual world. It wasn't a celebration or an attack on religion. It was something far more unsettling, a warning. Nietzsche wasn't merely talking about religion, he was addressing the collapse of meaning itself. For centuries, humans found purpose in the idea of a divine plan. Right and wrong were defined by sacred texts, and life had ultimate meaning because of God. But what happens when that foundation crumbled? When the truths that guided civilizations for thousands of years vanish? Nietzsche believed we were entering an era where faith in God was disappearing, not because science disproved him, but because humanity had stopped needing him. We killed God with our own hands through rationalism, skepticism, and modernity. And here's the terrifying part. If God is dead, then everything built upon him collapses too. Morality, purpose, justice, all of it. We are left stranded in a world without meaning. That's why Nietzsche's words weren't celebratory, they were a dire warning. He foresaw a future where humanity, unable to cope with this new reality, would descend into nihilism, a world where nothing matters. People would either crumble under existential dread or desperately search for something, anything, to replace what was lost. This idea feels more relevant today than ever before. In a world where people feel lost, depressed, and disconnected, could it be that we're still trapped in Nietzsche's prophecy? And if we are, is there a way out? By the end of this exploration, your understanding of life, morality, and existence will never be the same. The birth of God is dead. Picture this, a dimly lit study, the air thick with the scent of ink and old parchment. Outside, the streets of 19th century Germany buzz with change, factories roaring, science unraveling ancient beliefs, and philosophy tearing apart the fabric of morality. Amidst it all sits a lone man hunched over his desk, feverishly writing words that will shake the foundations of human thought. His name, Friedrich Nietzsche. His words, God is dead. He pauses for a moment, gripping his pen as if overwhelmed by the weight of what he has written. He knows these words won't merely spark debate, they'll ignite a firestorm. To understand why Nietzsche declared, God is dead, we must step back into his world, a world at war with itself. Europe in the late 19th century was undergoing radical transformation. Science had begun stripping away myths about the universe. Darwin's theory of evolution shattered the belief that humans were divinely created. The Industrial Revolution turned the old world into a machine-driven empire. Faith, once the heartbeat of civilization, was fading. For centuries, religion served as the foundation of morality, purpose, and truth. Now doubt crept into people's hearts. Science explained life in ways that didn't require God. Society evolved beyond moral codes dictated by ancient scriptures. Nietzsche saw what many refused to acknowledge. The world no longer needed God. But this wasn't something to celebrate, it was a crisis. Nietzsche wasn't simply rejecting God, he was mourning his death. Imagine a child realizing for the first time that Santa Claus isn't real. The shock, betrayal, and emptiness they feel. Amplify that feeling 1,000-fold, and you have Nietzsche's vision for the world. He wasn't saying God never existed, he was saying we killed him and, in doing so, left ourselves stranded without a moral compass, ultimate truth or meaning. Nietzsche viewed himself as a prophet screaming into the void, warning humanity about the disaster ahead. He knew that without God, society would spiral into nihilism, a world where nothing matters. People would replace religion with blind consumerism, political fanaticism, or shallow pleasures, desperately trying to fill the void. Yet here's the heartbreaking part. Nietzsche didn't just predict this crisis, he lived it. A genius ahead of his time, he spent his final years in solitude, misunderstood, battling illness and madness. He was burdened with knowledge too terrifying for his era. His words would inspire generations, but during his lifetime, he was ridiculed and dismissed. Can you imagine the frustration of uncovering a truth so powerful and dangerous that the world wasn't ready to hear it? Watching society sleepwalk into the abyss, unable to stop it. That was Nietzsche, a lone voice in the dark. As he sat there staring at those words, "God is dead," he knew history would never be the same again. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast, endless abyss. You look down expecting to find something, anything, but there's nothing. No ground beneath your feet, no light to guide you, no voice to tell you which way to go, just a terrifying emptiness. Now, imagine that abyss inside your mind. For centuries, religion acted as humanity's safety net, giving us purpose, defining right and wrong, and promising that no matter how chaotic life seemed, there was meaning behind it all, a divine plan, higher purpose. Then Nietzsche came along and ripped that safety net away. The question that remains is, what happens to a mind when everything it once believed in suddenly disappears? Psychologists today call it an existential crisis, a moment when everything you thought was true, your beliefs, morals, and purpose, crumbles before you. It's the kind of experience that can break a person. And Nietzsche understood this better than anyone. When he declared God is dead, he wasn't just talking about religion, he was addressing the collapse of an entire psychological framework. Without God, there was no ultimate justice, no cosmic plan, no guarantee that life had any inherent purpose. Here's the terrifying part. Most people aren't prepared for that kind of freedom. At first, the idea of a world without God might sound liberating. No rules, no divine judgment, just pure, unrestricted freedom. But freedom without direction is like drifting in an ocean without a map. For many, this realization is overwhelming. Without a higher power defining morality, who decides what's right or wrong? Without a divine plan, what's the point of suffering? Without the promise of an afterlife, why does anything matter? This isn't just a theoretical problem, it's a psychological nightmare. In Nietzsche's time, people still clung to remnants of religion. Today, however, we're living in the world he predicted, a world where traditional beliefs are fading, leaving people to navigate meaning on their own. Depression, anxiety, and nihilism are on the rise. More people than ever feel lost, disconnected, and without purpose. Maybe it's because we've killed the very thing that once gave life meaning. But here's the twist. Nietzsche never said humanity could live without meaning. He knew that if people abandoned God, they wouldn't accept meaninglessness. They'd look for something else to replace him. And that's exactly what happened. Some turned to political ideologies, treating them with the same blind faith once reserved for religion. Others drowned themselves in materialism, believing wealth or status could give them purpose. Still others chased pleasure, constant entertainment, distractions, anything to avoid facing the void within. But deep down, none of it truly satisfies. The feeling of emptiness remains because meaning can't just be replaced like a broken light bulb. It has to be rebuilt. Nietzsche believed only a rare kind of person could do it, a person strong enough to face the abyss without breaking, someone who doesn't crumble in despair, but instead creates their own purpose. He called this person the Übermensch, Superman. Imagine a world with no divine rules, no absolute morality, no cosmic justice. What would stop someone from lying, stealing, or even killing? If there's no higher power to judge them, no heaven to reward goodness, and no hell to punish evil, then what's the point of being good at all? This is the terrifying question Nietzsche forced the world to confront when he said, God is dead. He wasn't celebrating, he was warning us. He saw a future where people, unchained from religious morality, might lose all sense of right and wrong. History has proven him right. A world without God can be far darker than anyone imagined. One of the biggest mistakes people make about Nietzsche is thinking he was simply an anti-religion rebel. They assume he was just saying, God doesn't exist, so do whatever you want. But that's not what he meant. He wasn't just talking about religion, he was addressing the entire moral structure built around it. For centuries, humanity lived by moral systems based on religious principles, ideas of justice, compassion, sin, and virtue. These weren't just spiritual beliefs, they were the foundation of civilizations. Even atheists today live by moral standards shaped by religious history. But Nietzsche knew that once people rejected religion, they wouldn't just abandon God, they'd abandon the moral order that came with him. And that's when things get dangerous. The rise of nihilism and power struggles occurs when people stop believing in a higher power. Many don't become enlightened beings, they fall into nihilism, the belief that life is meaningless, morality is an illusion, and nothing truly matters. When that happens, something terrifying occurs. If there's no ultimate right or wrong, then the only thing left is power. Nietzsche feared that in a godless world, people would not seek truth or meaning but turn to domination. The strong would impose their will on the weak, and morality would become whatever the most powerful decided it to be. History has shown us what happens when morality is replaced by raw power. One infamous example is Adolf Hitler. Nazi ideology misused Nietzsche's ideas, especially his concept of the Übermensch, Superman. Nietzsche spoke about transcending traditional morality to create new values, but the Nazis distorted this into a doctrine of racial superiority. They believed might makes right, that power was the ultimate truth and morality was whatever they decided it to be. Nietzsche would have been horrified. He despised nationalism, blind obedience, and the herd mentality that led people to follow authority without question. His philosophy wasn't about justifying cruelty, it was about the terrifying responsibility of creating new meaning in a world without divine rules. What comes after God is dead? Picture yourself standing on the edge of a vast, dark abyss. The old world where God provided meaning, morality, and purpose is gone. Now you're staring into the void, wondering, what now? This is the chilling reality Nietzsche described. He saw that without God, humanity risked falling into nihilism, a state where life feels meaningless, morality is questioned, and despair takes over. But here's what most people misunderstand. Nietzsche didn't want us to remain in nihilism. He wasn't just a critic of religion, he was a philosopher of transformation, and he offered a way out, a path to create meaning rather than succumb to meaninglessness. Nietzsche's answer to the death of God wasn't hopelessness, it was strength. He introduced the concept of the Übermensch, Superman, an individual who doesn't rely on external sources for meaning, but creates their own value. The Übermensch doesn't blindly follow traditional morality or societal norm. Instead, they dismantle old beliefs that no longer serve them and build a new foundation for their existence. Think of history's greatest artists, thinkers, and revolutionaries: Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, or Steve Jobs. These were individuals who didn't accept the world as it was, they redefined it. The Übermensch isn't just about rejecting the past, it's about becoming something greater than you were yesterday. It's about transforming struggle into strength, chaos into creation, and meaninglessness into purpose. Nietzsche believed life isn't about finding meaning, it's about creating it. This is where his idea of the will to power comes into play. The will to power is the force that drives all living being. It's the desire to grow, improve, and dominate your circumstances rather than be controlled by them. Every time you overcome a fear, break a personal limit, or create something new, you're exercising the will to power. But when you avoid challenges, let fear dictate your actions, or blindly follow others, you suppress it. The difference between a strong person and a weak one isn't intelligence, luck, or resources, it's whether they embrace the will to power or reject it. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't just abstract theory, it's a guide to living, a roadmap for escaping the abyss of nihilism and taking control of your life. Here's how. Stop waiting for meaning, create it. There's no divine plan waiting for you. You must craft your own story, pursue what excites you, create something new, and challenge yourself daily. Question everything. Don't accept ideas just because society tells you to. Ask yourself, do I truly believe this, or am I just following others? Embrace struggle. Pain, suffering, and hardship aren't enemies, they're fuel. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. Break free from external validation. The Übermensch doesn't seek approval from others. Define success on your own terms. Become the architect of your own morality. If the old rules no longer make sense, don't just abandon them, replace them with something better. Nietzsche's philosophy isn't for the weak. It's not a comforting lie, it's a brutal truth. If you accept it, you must take full responsibility for your life. Now you have two choices. Let the abyss consume you, believing life is meaningless, or step into the unknown and create your own path. The question is, which path will you choose? Most people completely misunderstand Nietzsche's words. They think God is dead means he was celebrating atheism, mocking religion, or encouraging a world free from morality. That couldn't be further from the truth. Nietzsche didn't declare God's death as a victory. He declared it as a tragedy, a crisis, a terrifying shift in human history. He saw that faith in God wasn't just about worship, it was the foundation of meaning, morality, and purpose for billions of people. If that foundation collapsed, what would replace it? Nothing. That was his fear. A world without God would lead to nihilism, the belief that life has no meaning, no purpose, no truth. People would be lost, spiraling in existential despair, with no guiding principles left. And that's exactly what we see today. Look at the world around you. Depression and anxiety are at an all-time high. People are desperate for meaning, turning to social media, consumerism, or ideology to fill the void. Suicide rates are rising. A crisis of purpose is unfolding before our eyes. This is the world Nietzsche warned us about, but he also offered a way forward. He didn't want us to collapse into nihilism. He wanted us to take responsibility and become the creators of our own meaning. If God is dead, then it's up to us to build a new morality, rise above despair, and craft a purpose forged from our own struggles and experiences. Whether you believe in God or not, Nietzsche's warning applies to everyone. You can either run from the abyss, clinging to old beliefs without questioning them, or face the abyss, accepting that life has no inherent meaning and creating your own. Ignoring the question isn't an option. You'll eventually be forced to confront the emptiness, the fact that life doesn't come with a pre-written purpose. The real challenge is, what will you do next? Will you let the weight of meaninglessness crush you, or will you, as Nietzsche urged, rise above it? Will you become stronger, create, and define your own existence? Because in the end, God is dead isn't just a statement about religion. It's a challenge, a call to action, a demand that you take control of your own destiny. So now the question is yours to answer. Will you face the terrifying freedom Nietzsche spoke of? Will you take responsibility for your own beliefs, morality, and meaning? Or will you fall into the abyss of nihilism, letting others dictate what you should believe? If this made you think, don't let the journey stop here. Hit the like button to support deep, thought-provoking content like this. Subscribe for more mind-expanding ideas that challenge the way you see the world. And tell me in the comment, what does God is dead mean to you? Do you see it as a warning, an opportunity, or something else entirely?